What's up, y'all? Chris Delion here of Gam Keto. I'm super exhausted, so we're going to keep this kind of short today and to the point, but an important subject. I was up late last night with parent-teacher conferences. For right now, I teach K through 4th. Very introductory fundamentals for game programming-y kind of stuff with a school out here. So up late and then up early for a teleconference. We're getting Indiecade Europe organized. It'll be the first Indiecade in Europe. That's coming up in November, I think. But topic today is this barrier of 2 years industry experience and how to get past that, right? Because people feel it's a catch-22. They're looking at, okay, I want to get a job in the game industry, but the ones that I'm finding keep saying 2 years industry experience required. How am I supposed to get into that to get the 2 years industry experience if I have to have 2 years industry experience to get it? It's kind of a chicken and egg or like I say catch-22 kind of scenario, and it's not. There are a few different ways around that. Let's talk about what those are. The first one is that there are, for certain companies, they will consider a graduate degree in a related field comparable for 2 years industry experience in terms of they want to see that you have group project experience, you've got a certain level of maturity and commitment to your field, that it's something you are clearly on like sort of a serious track about. And so for some companies, not all of them, but some will consider that. So if you've got graduate education or if you're considering it, that's another way that can play into people's path if they're seeking industry work. Another pathway into it people take is to find experience professionally in an adjacent industry. So not in the game industry, but doing comparable work in a different industry. And so the game writers, the professional game writers I've known, the way that they got into game industry was they first were professional magazine writers or editors for other kinds of writing, or one was a novelist, right? And so they professionally have been paid to write, and that puts their credentials a tier above somebody who hasn't, and then they're able to shift into a game role. Or likewise for someone who wants to do some sort of design work, graphic work, etc. Very easily, they might have come from, they have years experience in a marketing company or in some other kind of agency where they're doing similar kinds of skills. They're used to the kind of teams and the kind of structure in the process, and they're just repurposing that into the games channel. Certainly for software engineers, right? There's lots of people out there who have many years professional experience in programming, not game programming necessarily as an industry. But if that person who has ample experience understanding what it means to be a programmer, 40, 50 plus hours a week, as a job, also supplements that understanding with, look, and I've been learning how to apply that to games and what's different about game programming. That's another way they can sometimes leverage that they have industry professional paid experience as an engineer. They've supplemented that with knowledge of how to make games, and in some companies, they will consider that as a reasonable substitution for the 2 years industry experience, because it's kind of meeting what they're really looking for is, are you prepared to do this work for us, right? Another thing to look at is that oftentimes those 2 years industry experience requirement things, those are at giant, well-known brands. Those are at established companies. That's part of why disproportionately those are the ones that we're finding, because we're looking at, you know what, I like this game by Studio X, Y, or Z that is very well known. I'm going to look them up, see if I can get a job there. That you played that game means that they are in a position that they have lots of other very experienced people who are hopping between companies, who have already got experience that are applying. And really where a lot of people have to get their first traction, their first footing, is in their first year or two of their career. They're finding smaller companies, less established brands, stuff that, you know, their games aren't in boxes on shelves, their games are not at the top of the charts, their games are not, whatever, on top of Steam or whatever for sure. But they're making stuff and they need someone who knows how to do something. Those are the opportunities most likely to come from proactively networking. For people who go to school systems, it's often it's classmates that they had. For people who, if you can go to conferences, people you meet and talk to at conferences, those are kind of opportunities where they need something done, and because they don't have the same level of budget or brand recognition as these bigger companies, they can't just put out a press release and just have droves of resumes avalanching onto their heads. They've got to go proactively seek and just ask their friends, like, hey, do you know someone who knows how to blank? And at that point, if you can take what their team needs done and get it working on the screen, you're good, right? That's all they're looking for. They need someone who knows how to do that, so that they can make the rest of their work, put it out there, and try to get their company's traction. And so oftentimes that's kind of formation that first takes in someone's path, is these small, you got to level up on slimes before your boss fight, I think is what Rick Davidson, game career coach, how he kind of explains that, right? And obviously too, I mean, this is also a huge part of why I've designed Gam Keto Club the way that I have. And this is not just some sort of shameless pitch or random plug that I'm sticking into this video. It's because specifically this is the kind of problem that Gam Keto Club is designed to address, and the kind of people it's trying to help. And that while not everyone in the club is there on a career track or means to be, some people prefer it's just enrichment or enjoyment or practice, or it's just something they enjoy, making the games they feel like making. For others in the club, they are career track, and those are people who we've been able to help a handful of them who we've got an artist who was able to find himself contract work out of it, a musician got himself contract work out of it, one of our game programmers and game designers got his first paying gig building a game for an institution that wanted a game made. Now, I'll be super upfront. It is not a high-profile, top-tier AAA job that he wants for the rest of his life to hold, but it is footing in being paid to do this, to make games and to design the games he's building. And that's the sort of thing that can help form that formation towards that 2 years industry experience of he's building up to a point where each successive job he can speak to, I've been paid to do this, I've overcome the challenges involved, I delivered on schedule, let me talk to you about that experience. And we've also got people who, part of what the club's kind of about is that when someone does great work in it, then I'm able to help sort of, when they're at that level, help clean up the portfolio, help them with reworking kind of how they position Word and clarify their resume, their websites and stuff. And so another thing I've been doing, I just got off the phone, it must have been 2 days ago, with a guy who's my contact for a certain category of companies, because we've had a really brilliant game developer in the club. He's done some great projects, and he's trying to find work right now. He wants an industry role out of it. And so I'm helping to connect him to, okay, well, here's somebody that they know the right kind of companies to go knocking on the doors of, sending us some introduction emails right after this video gets finished. And that's part of what I do too, is I'm trying to help find ways to place people. If they're doing good work, then I can try to help. I know who to show those people to. That's part of what I try to do in our club. And then last thing, we've got cases too. We've got people who, one of them, he used to be a game programmer in industry briefly, but it's been a little while. And so he had like this gap in his resume if he hasn't been doing game stuff. And now he's been able to pack in there a few different projects he's been involved on, hands-on, doing stuff. To be able to speak to those experiences in interviews helps give him the boost to put himself back in those situations. So anyway, again, I don't want to make a whole commercial here, but basically, part of the answer of like, okay, you want to try to bypass that 2-year industry experience. What are the ways around that? If graduate school is an option for you, that might be a fit depending on what kind of path you're on. For some people, that's the answer. If you can look at an adjacent industry, if you can get paid to do the work, even if it's not in games, but to get yourself paying experience doing the kind of work you want to do for games, that sometimes can help you do that as a lateral shift. If you can at least find some smaller companies that can take a chance on you, that's another option. Or Keto Club is something, of course, I'm trying to make sure it works at a more affordable rate than the colleges can offer. It's worldwide, it's online, it's different, it's broader age ranges, which also enables for a lot of our people in the club, by the way, to keep like a day job where the day job might be paying them better than an introductory foot in the door kind of first attempt might be if they were just trying to go to the smallest company they could find to hire them. But anyway, so that's it for now. 2 years industry experience thing is not an impossible barrier. It's not a catch-22. It's your clue that, that's the boss fight. And you got to find, okay, well, how do I level up to get there? And there are different ways to do it. So I look forward to playing games in the future. Thanks for tuning in. Keep making games. Y'all are awesome. Thanks.